Lance, face to face, congratulations. I offered it by email.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, test, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hear that in a few seconds. I'm gonna mute again. All right, test 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, test.
Kenneth Bo,
Present.
Clarence Copeland,
I'm ready. I have a question for you and for Lee now, Lance.
All right, great. Hang on. Michelle, roll call. Please, Michelle, go ahead.
Gene Fields,
Here.
Thomas Hoover,
Here.
Jay, Lance Neal,
Here.
Elizabeth Bentley Smith. Here. Ron Solomon. Francesca. Ramu,
I'm here.
Ram,
Here.
Bryce Sanders,
Here.
Eric Setz,
Here.
Noah Wong,
Here.
and Craig Woolley. We have a quorum.
Awesome. Great. The normal first order of business, usually approving the minutes from the last meeting.
And you,
If you do the transition from Lonnie to the person TBD, that will name in a second. We kind of fallen behind a bit, so the last two meetings minutes will be sent out prior to the November meeting. And we'll approve both of them, all three of them in the November. That's okay. Fair enough. So the first order of business is really have Rick Simmons to talk about the search process and the end results of the search process for the executive director of the LONI Council.
Great, thank you, Noel. Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Simmons. I work for LSU here in Baton Rouge in the IT department. I report to Craig. So just briefly, the search, we started working with Board of Regents back in January to take a look at the job description for that position, since it hadn't been revised since probably 2012 or 2013. So we want to make sure we were current with what Regents was expecting. And then in February, I attended the Quilt Winter Member Meeting. The Quilt is a conference where these research and education network operators attend and exchange, information. And I went to that meeting to meet with Jen Leisure, who was the president. I told her we were going to be searching, and she offered her help, not only in reviewing the job description, but she was going to help post the job and make sure other folks knew about it. And then I also took the time to network with some other of those network operators at the conference. And I also notified some personal contacts that I had, one of which was Charlie McMahon. Some of you may know Charlie. He was the first executive director for LONI. So I contacted him as well to get the word out. And then formed the search committee. So I do want to thank Noel and Ken and Chris and Tracy Brown for their participation in the search committee. We were trying to keep the committee somewhat small, so we could be more agile, I guess. So the job was posted March 13th. Indeed.com picked up that job description and advertised it. And Jen Leisure with the Quilt, she put it on their LinkedIn instance to help advertise it. And of course, I sent the link to my contacts as well. The search committee kickoff meeting was May 1st. We had 19 applicants total. 6 were invited for virtual interviews and 3 were selected for on-site interviews. We had 1 external candidate that we could not get in touch with. We tried multiple times, email, telephone, we got no response. And Lance Neal, as you know, emerged as the final candidate and accepted the position.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a note, if you don't mind. I want to personally thank the committee, LSU, the Board of Regents, and the team that volunteered. I think that the selection, and I want to put this on the record, I think was awesome. I think Lance is going to be able to build on what LONI has already started and had started. So I think we've got a great foundation, and I'm really looking forward, not only as a customer, but as a management council member, to working very closely with Lance and his team.
Thank you, Gene.
Yeah, it's a long and thoughtful process with interviewing the candidates. And I think Lance is more capable to go from LONI. And then we're already having better conversations around how to navigate forward with the strategic plan, how we can make things better over the next 3 years. So it's great. Okay, next big topic is around the bylaws. We have had a number of conversations about changing some of the language. around bylaws. So what I managed to do to consolidate all that into 2 slides, actually 2.5 slides. So the slide you're looking at now is the 4 major substantial changes that we're making to the bylaws, and I believe we talked to most of those already. So you can take a minute to look at them. The first one's kind of obvious. The second one is around having at least one member from each system shall be, but with some of the institutions, they just don't have the research on, so we change it to maybe. And then the third topic is around lack of attendance for a member. And then the current language is talking about, we're asking the person to resign from the committee. So we soften the language to say, hey, we'll have a conversation with that person and figure out what the going forward strategy should be. And then lastly, it's just to give us more room to kind of finish the minutes for the meeting. So changing from 10 days after the meeting to no later than 1 week prior to the next meeting. Any feedback or discussions?
Do we need the second item? We can just say.
Well, must, will, and shall have a very specific.
I understand, but I mean, we could remove.
Oh, if we
the
move it
second item
completely.
completely. Maybe it's like, I don't know, it's not saying much.
Well, I think it keeps with the sentiment of what Regis has been promoting for years is that, you know, we do want the research and scientific component of their council. And so I think it still maintains an expectation that if possible, then that's a good thing to exercise from a systems perspective.
In that case, maybe we want to say where possible. At least one member.
Yeah, we don't need to make the decision today. I think we'll clean up whatever
Sure.
else you guys have.
That's
clean.
nice. I'm suggesting
Where-
at least add where possible.
Where possible. then.
Indicates why we are.
Good point. Any other questions? Comments? Suggestions?
And to the point, we want to kind of socialize these today, get some feedback, and then perhaps, so you once we receive feedback or you had time to think about it, then at the November meeting, we could actually put some motions in front of the council to adopt based upon that feedback.
So the next sets of items are just basically just clean up. The counts wasn't right. I think Ken fixed a lot of those with his last version. That's to deal with the first item from 3 to 4. Then the next item from 9 to 8. And then changing the word chairman to chair for the next 2 items. It just basically clean up work.
And to remind folks, so we adopted several years ago the cybersecurity advisor for the council, so that changed the number of advisors to 4. We just, while we adopted that in the advisor section, we didn't necessarily reflect that in the rest of the bylaws in the document. So this is kind of cleaning up some of that. And then a couple of years ago, when we removed the secretary treasurer position, well, that removed the officers from 3 to 2. And so that's why the reduction from 9 to 8 on the executive committee.
Any comments or suggestions? Then the last slide is similar to that. We just clean up the language a bit, so we don't have to repeat reports and recommendation off. We just said it once and then list the items that they're below.
And this one is just for the order of business.
So like Len said, we'll send a latest version out after the meeting. You have till the next November meeting to provide any feedback. If we don't have any feedback, we'll publish that as official version.
We'll have to have the legal counsel review.
Yes,
Absolutely.
after, thank you.
Just double checking.
Yeah. All right. Oh, you don't. I did.
We're in.
Okay, so we have a selection committee, correct? A nomination committee. So now that we're heading to the end of the year, so we need to gear up for next year. So can we have the assumption that in the November meeting, we're gonna have the nomination for 2026?
So we have to nominate the chair-elect, is that right?
So Aram,
Yeah, you guys,
Gene,
you can talk amongst yourselves. Be careful of that conversation.
I know, are the three of you okay with continuing on in that capacity?
Thank you, appreciate
Well, I think we've done pretty good so far.
that.
Present company included, of course.
In particular.
Executive Director report?
All right, thank you, Noel. So I'm gonna take a moment and maybe keep with some of the flow that we've become accustomed to, and you'll see maybe a few tweaks here and there, but just to remind everybody where we are on the calendar year 25 work plan, that, you know, we're still in 25, so we still need to tackle these items. So we did publish the strategic plan, so that is something we can certainly check off the list. We're still gonna be working on the LONI membership fee schedule and working with regents on what that looks like. Because as a reminder that expires at the end of this fiscal year, and so we need to have something in place for 27. And of course, NGI and the SOC are two very big projects that we need to have moving in the right direction, and NGI, we certainly want to have completed. And I think our target for that is certainly before the end of the calendar year, if not sooner. So we're moving forward at a very good pace, at a very comfortable pace of those things. All right, so one of the things we wanted to start bringing up today was, now that we've adopted the strategic plan, and I think Gene has some very good questions about this and about maybe some action items we might want to consider now that we have this in place. And so we wanted to start having that conversation and socializing what that means. And so the next few slides, I just highlighted some of the actually meat from the strategic plan. So the four foundations of it are sustainability, communication, security, and research. And I'm just kind of highlighting what those high-level topics were. And then going through each of them individually, there's an objective or one or two in certain cases, as well as some of the goals within there. So certainly don't want to read them. And I know that everyone, since we published it, has had an opportunity to read this already. So thank you for doing that. But these are just here for conversational pieces. So we're talking about sustainability. So some things I want to highlight on here are, you know, in A, the very last thing is based on feedback. So that means I need feedback from you and the members that you represent. But I can't do it without you because I need to do something based on feedback. So please provide that.
So here's a question, right? So I think Lance and I have been talking about it. So should we open up for selection of feedback from each of the systems and then we bring back to the next council? Or should we, there are different options to do this, right? We can spin up different working groups, take a tenant per group, and then mature those thoughts and present out over the next year or so, all the things that we should be able to do to move the needle, or any other suggestions you may have.
This is the part where a group discussion comes into play.
Any interest in creating 4 working groups, 1 group per pillar?
And get feedback from as many of our universities and other entities that are members as possible. Can we do this as a rolling 5-year? Because 5 years is long.
Yeah, I know. We don't have to finish your
Life cycle, so
Right.
perhaps after 3 years, you start the next 5-year plan after 3 years. Or be ready for the next plan. We don't want to say a 3-year plan, but if we want to do a 3-year plan, I'm fine with that, but I think 5 years is too long.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we can
Anyway.
work that out as we
Sure.
navigate through this, but the question is, how do we begin to make some movement in this and have some conversations and solicitation of feedback from each of the systems?
I like that breaking up in the 4 principles and having different groups that way, at least that group can kind of dig into that and come up with some, then get you feedback, and also that's how it's gonna be implemented. Getting in some, the raw meat in there, and actually, I like that. And that also gets us all into being part of it and buying into it too. So I do like that.
Agree with Tom, because inside each group, you're gonna have multiple systems represented for feedback, that particular principle, so that's a better spread.
And perhaps have one meeting. Doesn't have to be an in-person meeting, but where we make a presentation to the universities. After, we have a draft of the plan. So it's broadcast or over Zoom. That way we can get some feedback in addition to the first stage feedback we get in the first stage.
So who's contributing to this initial collection of feedback?
Universities, it's on there, the ball is in their court. Yeah, okay.
So you're saying make a webinar across the institution?
No, that's on, after we have a draft.
Okay, okay.
Not initially.
That's the second step, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the second.
So the first step is the working, right?
Right, and that's really where my question was, in this first step, who is contributing in this working group, on what this plan looks like?
So I guess maybe we can go around each of the pillar and look for volunteers. Right, so. Okay, sustainability.
That should be Lance.
Unless otherwise directed, I probably would participate in all four of them.
Sure.
In some fashion.
In some fashion, absolutely.
Sure.
Anyone else want to participate in sustainability?
When the plan was being developed, one of the positive things about it that I remember distinctly was that the foundational principles were designed to be exactly that, the foundational elements, and the discussions in the planning process and the development process was for this to be a living, breathing document. So to your point, Lance, building those feedback mechanisms, working groups, to Tom's point, I think that's a great idea, segregating them in that fashion. I think that allows us to have ongoing, continuous process improvement, which to me is an important component of what the strategic plan is all about.
Anyone else for the sustainability?
Please don't be shy. I might call on you to volunteer.
I was gonna say, it might be easier just to make assignments. Per group, is this a 3-member working group, a 4-member working group,
I think at least two, maybe probably three, if we have three. But then there's some overlap. Each of us will need to take on probably 2 pillars to make 3, right?
And don't be shy about volunteering someone who didn't show up today.
So let's go back to the last slide. So is there an interest in volunteering for any of these pillars, right? Security, communication, research. I want to do research. Research me.
Yeah, join you.
Yeah, I was actually going to suggest and recommend that the advisors of each of those, I know for sustainability, I would suggest a technical advisor. And security would be, the cybersecurity advisor would participate in those as well.
We're coming with suggestion and email that, see where I go from there.
I'll volunteer for communications.
Awesome.
Thank you, Bryce.
All right, thank you.
So before we move off, if there are any questions or anything specifically about any one of these objectives or any one of these principles, we can pause and look at them. I have them all here for discussion points. So if there's anything you want to touch on, then please put it.
I'll also volunteer for communications first. If we need a second one, sustainability, since Craig will be the security one.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. Anything else on strategic plan before we move on to the next topic? Yes, sir.
Sorry for bringing that up again. Do we want to switch to a 4-year plan? That's in cycle with how long the state legislature, the governor's office is in power and many other things.
I'll speak to that. So we do a 5-year strategic plan within the Board of Regents. It's a pretty standard metric, as does the state itself. So every state agency, because we are a performance-based budget system here within the state, is also required to review their strategic plans that are dictated by statute every 5 years. So 5 years is pretty standard.
Okay.
With that being said, the expectation is every year there's a discussion, an update to it, making sure we're on track, meeting our goals and objectives accordingly. And I think that's certainly something the council should plan on doing.
Yeah, thank you for that. Of course, there's nothing prohibiting the Board of Regents and or recommendations from the council to say, we need to pivot on something because there's, some new expectation or directive from the governor or the administration that we need to adopt. So we will need to revisit that, like as she was suggesting. So I think we'll have those opportunities, Ron. Okay,
This is the schedule for the next meeting?
no, these are, I'm sorry, this is the part. I'll hand it over after. Just some news in advance. So of course, our community call will be this Thursday as keeping with traditional practice. So we'll give some updates, a little bit more deeper dive into our NGI project, since we have a little more technical audience on those calls sometimes. And also the LONI staff will be doing some traveling over the fall, just like many of your institutions are doing. So we'll be at the Splunk conference in 2 weeks, and our Quilt Fall member meeting will be in Michigan the week following. And then we are also participating, as we always do, with supercomputing and SciNet, starting the week of October 22nd, going all the way through the conference itself that ends over the week of November 22nd. So hopefully we'll see you maybe at least at supercomputing for some of you, some of y'all that are going.
You might want to mention all that's new and might have an interest.
You're right. Actually, I'm gonna let Gary, I'll throw it to you, since you're planning to go. So AutoCon, something is a new conference that was brought to our attention for, mostly on network automation. Some of our peers across the country introduced us to that. Well, one of our staff actually introduced us to it about a year ago. We hadn't heard anything about it, so we kind of did a little bit of investigation, and it actually came up in conversation with some of our peers, and they said it was an excellent endeavor to get involved in, and Internet 2 also was involved in that particular event. So Gary may know a little bit more, so I'll let you touch on it.
Yeah, I don't know much more than that, other than I had a conversation with Lady at Internet 2, talked about the workshops being excellent as well. So this will be our first foray into it. I'm going to attend with one of our network engineers to just kind of review it, see what the value is, so that we can decide if we're going to continue to participate year over year. But it looks like an excellent opportunity. The part of our staff have been participating in a Internet 2 hosted network automation working group. But by participating, I mean they're just in the Slack channel, and essentially while we're rolling out this NGI project, that's really the basis of what they've been doing to be able to participate. Is just kind of watching what people have been conversations that go on. So hopefully this is an opportunity for us to develop what the next phase is for ourselves. Once NGI is rolled out, we think that automation is the next thing for us to do. It's like eliminate mistakes, eliminate all these things to improve the service. And we're going to use this as an opportunity to go and learn and, human network. And maybe there's a better thing out there, but this is only the 4th event that they've had. This is AutoCon 4, so it's very new. And AutoCon 3 was in another country. I can't recall where, but AutoCon 2 was in the United States. So I guess every 6 months they have one that's in the US roughly. So we're going to try to keep participating. I don't know much more than that yet.
And if we certainly see some value, because I know many of your staffs in the working groups have had conversations about automation. So as we see things, potentially crop up from a network automation perspective or just an operational automation perspective, we certainly want to share that with y'all, and that may be another opportunity for us to, be sitting at the same table with each other and try to solve problems to make things a lot more efficiently for ourselves. So we'll be certainly to share about what our experience is, following that event.
Lance, is the expectation similar to other I2 backed and supported initiatives where they usually select and provide resources, tools, et cetera, like Common, et cetera, that, that would be available, that could be passed down to as best practice to all the way at the end of the campuses. Is that something you expect, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think that they're doing that in the network automation working group that Internet Two hosts. They're not necessarily that Internet Two is developing products to hand down. Although Internet Two did develop their own, they call it the Insight Console, and it is a looking glass and an automation tool and all these things that they're adding on. That's something that developed internally, and that was one of the things that Lonnie was pushing Internet Two for. Lonnie Leger was pushing Internet Two for previously, was to, as members, as paying members of Internet Two, make that available to us. Let us have that source code and distribute that so that we can make it our own if we choose to, or if we have the staff. You might have the staff. We don't currently have the staff, but some of the institutions might. So I think that they're still having those conversations, but so far the result hasn't come back that they're gonna open that up and give that to us. But they the membership in that working group are really open to answering questions, providing source code on GitHub and things that they've worked on. So there's nothing official coming from Internet Two, but I think it's a valuable group to be a part of, because you can find things out just by being in the group and go get software that's available, at no cost. Now, no cost and no support maybe, but you get support from the group when you can ask questions, right? At least you have a friend in the business that you can communicate with, right?
I like an open source platform.
Yeah, so far. And I preface that with, we haven't participated at a very high level yet, so there may be a lot more to it that we're just not.
So do you suggest for us to join the hackathon, or wait and see what you get out of it?
We're gonna share what that experience is
Okay,
with the
alright.
community, and so, yes, we can certainly offer some suggestions and recommendations based upon what we learn.
I think we're all interested in it.
Right.
Any automation we can build.
Sure. And I don't know where every institution is in doing any automation. We're doing none at this point. So, for us, we know we've identified we have to start moving in this direction. So it might be a good idea to send somebody and get in on the ground floor, right? Go see what it's about now, even, and don't wait on us, because, it will be another year before it comes around.
Yeah.
So you have to wait a year, right? And
Yeah.
you make that decision.
Yeah.
Can you afford to wait another year? I don't think we can. I think we need to be there this year.
And that's why we're going.
And you guys are probably more wide area network focused, and some of us are more local area.
Exactly.
So,
Yes.
Yes, and they may be automating other things. I don't, if you go to the website, it's because it's such a new event, they don't have a lot of detail. Even the agenda just says, hey, the first 2 days are workshops, the next 3 days are the event, and there's not a lot of detail. But we're using the recommendation from Internet Two, and I did get confirmation from the lady at Internet Two that actually came to Holy Cross to our summit a few years ago and gave the network automation workshop to our members that attended.
Yeah.
I've been communicating with her, and she
Yeah.
highly recommends it, even though there's not a lot of details on the agenda. Part of the agenda.
not to go too far down the line, I can envision creating a team, cross-functional team to mature this platform into something that would work.
Right.
And so, like I mentioned earlier, that there's certainly an opportunity for us to be shoulder to shoulder with anybody who's interested.
Yeah, it's great.
So if anyone does have an interest and has an opportunity to send staff, let us know, and we'll send you what we have, and we can join forces while we're there. I would make the same recommendation for the Internet Two events, for those of you that Internet Two members. Everyone that I've been to, either TechX or ComEx, the Insight Console that Gary mentioned, they showcase that every single event. And so it's a tool we all have access to as Internet Two members. And so for those of you that are, I would encourage you to send someone. Be there with us.
Can you send the email?
Absolutely. Thank you. Please give me make a reminder for that. All right, just a quick update. This was as of 8:15. We have received some payments over the last 2 weeks, but they weren't necessarily reflected here. But just as a general reminder for those that you represent, our deadline is September 30th for the current membership fee payments. So please help us get across that finish line. I'd love to show an all clear graph for the November meeting. That would be great. All right, and so Love, I'm gonna ask you to step on up to the table and you can give us an update on your HPC stuff.
Well, I guess it's business as usual, and so we have had 2 quarters with record allocation number of as used from the allocation. As Ingram Romo, as a chair of the resource allocation committee, can attest to that. Which I guess prompted the committee to increase the limit for single and total as used for a single allocation and the total active. You can have from 8 and 16 respectively to 12 and 24. So I think we will see more as you've been requested in the following quarters. No, ask me about the GPU utilization rate. So I took a look. It's still overall, it's still kind of lower than what we want, actually lower than the CPU utilization, but we have seen increasing trend. The trend is the 3 quarters ago is a little bit over 10%. Last quarter is 20, and this quarter, of course, we're less than 2 months into this quarter. But I think this quarter will have over 30%. So we do have a lot of applicant requests as some use GPU resources. So I guess we can, next.
One more.
Q4 is about 60% utilized. And you can see that as that increase, Q3 utilization rate is going down. So a few other updates. So unfortunately, the tooling MRI proposal was rejected by NSF. Given the current climate, funding, climate from the federal agencies. Well, I mean, it's a fierce competition to begin with, right? I mean, a lot of excellent proposals, in my opinion, this one being one of them, got rejected. So, but we will keep trying. I think that's definitely what we plan to do. But it is unlikely. I haven't got any confirmation from any NSF officer about this, but looks like, because it's almost September, so it's very unlikely that we'll have another round of MRI or CC star this kind of year. But there is a MRI submission date in 2026. Not sure about CC star. So actually, I'm not sure about that program, because there has not been any update from NSF. And the last thing I want to report is the research working group. We had our first sort of activity there. A few institutions, we got together to talk about how to support research that involves UI and other sensitive, other type of sensitive data. I think in the first call, we kind of exchanged information. What are the current practices, and what are the challenges? And a lot of them are common challenges. So I think the next step is to get more people involved, more institutions, more campuses involved, and we'll try to put together a document where we can list all the missing opportunities, because a lot of programs, if you look at NIH or DoD, if you don't have certain infrastructure in place, you would not be eligible even to apply for the grant, right? So we will try to create a document where we have all the missing opportunities, and hopefully this is something that we can later on maybe take to LONI, to the regents, and then see if there's anything we can do about it. So yeah, that's all I have.
Any questions for Love on the HPC side?
On the research working group, do we have a listserv or some broadcast type mechanism that we can subscribe to?
We do have.
Because I'd like to connect some of the faculty on my campus to getting more involved and engaged.
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah,
we don't have right now, but yeah.
Right, we're gonna create a distribution list like we do for the other working groups. So if you have recommendations, suggestions, send it to us, and we'll put them on there.
I'd like to know who are on there right now.
And also, yes, after this meeting, I'm gonna reach out. I'm gonna reach out to some of you right after this meeting. Let's get involved. So yeah.
I think that's, we were talking about this earlier. I think this is a null thing, it's not a chair thing. There's increased volume of researchers who begin to buy more and more high-end workstation with GPUs in it, and the desk doing their thing, or even putting GPUs in the closet just to have some kind of mini data center. So there's a whole conversations around, we're talking about to say a real-time Juniper notebook container that you can issue jobs somewhat real-time against a cluster versus continuing to let them go buy more and more workstation across that volume and, right, so, but then we need to have some allocation mechanism to make sure that it's controllable. We're not using up all the resources on the HPC, so just throwing it out there as a topic, because I personally have an interest in it, so.
I totally agree with you, we shared and talked about this at the last meeting. That burn is growing exponentially, on the campus in terms of expenditures. And anything we can do to collaborate. Bring value to not just one or two campuses, but the entire community, so I'm very interested in it.
Potentially, this could be that pseudo condo model that other institution has adapted, right? I mean, $25,000 or $50,000, not gonna buy you a GPU, but if you have a bunch of them and we can centralize that pool of money, it could be self-funding to a point where we can continue to grow out the infrastructure that we have. Just an idea.
Is there a way to allocate what we already have for this purpose?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We can do that as well as potentially.
So some mechanism for them to, if possibly in an ideal world, they will be able to burst into a private cloud, which is LONI, which is, but we still, we're not there yet.
Yep. So any interest in going offline, have a conversation?
That could be a topic for the research.
Yeah,
Yeah, the research pillar, yeah, okay,
So
great.
please reach out if one of you, or if you want to volunteer somebody, please let us know. Okay, thank you, Bob. All right, Mr. King.
I think we left.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I want to give you some updates on where we are with our currently SOC as a service. Good news is we've already got 30 on board, 30 campuses across the state. That's not exactly the finishing line, but I think it's a huge milepost. It's awesome that I get to step in right now at the very end and announce that, because I've only seen, 3 or 4 come across over the last few months. In our implementation phase, we have 3 that are hovering there, and these will be complete pretty soon. Those went up and down, that production phase, implementation phase, a couple times on this slide, but before it's submitted, but that's kind of finally where we sit in. There's a couple little issues hanging out there, and then those will be done. Now, realistically, after that, we're gonna see a little pause in implementation. So we're not really set up right now to start with Southern Ag, Fletcher, UNO, the ULL system. There's some communication going on back and forth there, but our focus is going to come in onto these 33 campuses, and we are going to go back and start again at the very top and go through each one of those institutions, because this has been going on now for 3 years and some things have changed. Networks have changed, those architectures have changed, new things have been implemented as this has been going on. We want to make sure that we're getting all the right data from those systems into the SOC, make sure that we're not missing anything. As this went on, there was a huge focus on getting all of these online in implementation phase. So we got everybody in the same room now, right? So now we want to go make sure that all their needs are actually really being met as we're looking at this. We've already done this for one institution. We actually highlighted some stuff that did come on that as a SOC we weren't aware of. They thought we just kind of magically knew that and that it was coming in, and there was a little bit of a gap there, right? So increasing communication across both our SOC, our vendor, and the campuses is going to be huge as we move forward. I think we're at a very exciting phase as we move this over, that we do actually have the data coming in now. Now it's time to actually then turn it into something. So we have the what, now we're going to start focusing on the so what as we move forward.
So one of the things that I want to kind of highlight here as a very beneficial next step for the members that you serve is engagement on the Splunk side. So it is a very powerful tool. We're gonna go through this effort for our own staff, and I would recommend that you do it for yours as well that are in this space. Is go through some of the Splunk trainings that we have, that you can do through Splunk Q at their conference. And, or actually following the conference this year, which is in September, we do have access to a lot of virtual training credits, and so we're gonna start opening those up. And of course, we don't have it's not a big old pool of training credits that we do have, so we're gonna need to allocate it strategically and accordingly with everybody and make sure everybody has an opportunity to participate. But on the lookout for that, and I would certainly recommend that you take advantage of those whenever possible. It's a very, very good tool that to have in your tool belt, especially for your own campus's people. So please be on the lookout.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, we have one of the largest Splunk implementations across the country, shared of all of us. We should also then have one of the largest employee base that are Splunk certified on their resumes. So I would really love to say that all of us have somebody on there with that certification, because there's some value add there, right? So we really want to get some engagement, some involvement there. Because, you know, a lot of this is, I won't say is free, it's already paid for, it comes with us, but we have paid for it, but it's sitting there for us to leverage, right? So my team and I are going to the Splunk conference. We're going through that certification process. We have some LSU folks who are going through that certification process. I would love to have at least one certified across all the institutions. Yeah, Charlie, I'm looking at you, across the board there.
Yep, very good.
Thank you.
Questions for Devin?
I mean, just to plant a seed for this security tenant of this strategic plan, I think Splunk is kind of the blocking and tackling of security monitoring. Now a lot of the noise is coming through email, phishing email to retrieve your credential, and then in turn they'll get in the system, change your direct deposit account, things like that. So we've been looking at CrowdStrike identity for some of that, and we're also looking at abnormal, which is AI on top of email, being intelligence that way. That's the number one noise that I get when I'm sitting from a phishing standpoint.
Yeah, and that attack is common. It is low as far as noise to ratio on your network. It's not causing you to get ransom or everything, but it is the number one financial impact across the country, and it's in the billions of dollars lost from exactly what he just described. It's to be quite honest, it's really simple. So it's a low barrier of entry. You don't have to be, you know, all cybered up to be able to do it. And the bang for the buck is huge. It is, and it is detrimental. I've seen a lot of small businesses close shop after.
Yeah.
Just,
I mean, for us, they hunt for the high salary personnel, like head of surgery or something like that, right? And then
contracts.
and
Contracts.
those screen looks exactly like the tooling screen, exactly, bit for bit, byte for byte.
Give me a second, I can talk about this all day.
Yeah, if you don't look at a URL, you never know. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's good. So one of the things we're gonna be also diving into is, as Devin is exploring what that certification process looks like, we're gonna have some recommendations to provide to all of you to determine how you want your staff to be integrated, or if, you know, to have basically a course plan that you could potentially follow to kind of get those certifications. All right, and next up, Mr. Gary.
All right, so this slide on NGI is a little bit dated because we had to submit that before last week's work. Unfortunately, I was hoping to stand here and say all of the optical backbone got converted successfully because we had 2 segments last week that we tried to convert. Unfortunately, with the new technology that we purchased, it's a little bit more sensitive than the predecessor from 20 years ago. So we ran into a few complications between Baton Rouge and Hammond, and between Thibodaux and New Orleans. hopefully we are going to overcome those in the next couple of weeks. Matter of fact, it's on the schedule for the week of September the 8th to wrap that up. So waiting on some information back from the vendor and some engineering work to help us overcome that. But essentially, it's just probably some fiber cleanup that we have to get the vendors of the fiber to go out and prepare for us to make it a little bit cleaner for the new technology to operate properly. But I'm confident that regardless of the new technology or not, there are workarounds that we'll be able to close the door on decommissioning the old network and putting the new network in place. So that's the update on the Infinera product, the optical line. The router updates, we have kind of paused a little bit because we're so close to getting the optical space completed. We took a little bit of a pause on the Cisco router deployment, and as soon as the Infinera piece is rolled up or wrapped up, we're gonna shift gears and go back into getting the Cisco devices in place. We have had some success, and LSU has helped us in testing in that the new Cisco network is the owner of the network, if you will, and no longer the old Juniper routers. Some of the Juniper routers are still out there. There's a lot of physical interconnectivity on the Juniper routers. But we have migrated LSU to 100 gig connectivity at both of their locations on their campus in Baton Rouge. So they were volunteered to kind of test it out for us. And that's been working very well since mid-July, I think is when we did that. So very excited to see that the new architecture can take over. And as soon as we get the human cycles, right, human availability, once this Infinera piece is done, we're going to start migrating all the member services to the new platform. There's still some routers left to deploy. We're going to do that at the same time in the process. Generally, all of the aggregate devices are deployed and all of the backbone devices are deployed. So the ones we have left are those that might be at remote sites around the state. One location, it affects one location at a time or something like that. So we're working on scheduling that for the rest of the calendar year. Love to have it all wrapped up by Thanksgiving. That's our target. And we would love to have all of the old gear decommissioned and, you know, on a pallet and ready for surplus by the end of the calendar year. And then we can give CC back all of his stuff that he graciously bought for the network 20 years ago. That he asked me about every year. Exactly. That's right. You can flip the next. All right, rural healthcare. So quick update on the current cycle, which is the one everybody probably cares about, was like, when am I going to get my dollars, right? So for the closing out of fiscal year 25, we are in the process. We've already filed for the disbursement. Our UAMS has already filed for the disbursement, and we are answering questions from the program. You know, hey, I need a little bit more evidence of payment or whatever. I saw an email this morning where Rachel provided some documents, so hopefully we've answered everything that they need. If that is the case, then I expect the disbursement check to be shortly following. I think they disperse on the 6th and the 20th of every month. So we'll fall in that cycle somewhere as soon as they sign off and say you met all the requirements. So we'll get we expect to get the dollars a lot sooner than we have in previous years. We did well working with UAMS this year to kind of preemptively prepare some documentation for them to submit early. We got that done. I think last year we got our money in January, and the previous year was December. So this will be the soonest that we've gotten the dollars in any iteration we've tried so far. Additionally, the next cycle, of course, the next cycle is the one we're currently in, FY26, which is just a wait until the end of the fiscal year so we can calculate what dollars were spent by every member. But for FY27, you'll see some dates up here. We would like for anyone that has not declared that they would want to participate, that they get the LOI process started, right? We need a letter of intent. Let us know that you're gonna participate and you haven't participated before. If you're returning, participated already, you don't have to do anything for that stage. It's just for the folks that are new. And then the filing window starts December 1st, typically ends March 31st. I think last year they extended that to June 1st. So typically, I think they've extended it every year we've been a participant. So I don't think that they've ended on March 31st yet. But that's the dates for the spring. And then any member, that's a final note there at the bottom, is that the new members that don't know if they're eligible The deadline for finding that out is essentially to have everything submitted by the end of January. Because it's about a 45-day process and there may be some delays with everything that's going on and in these federal spaces. So we don't want anyone to miss out on an opportunity. So if you've got members you're representing, they don't know that they're going to do this or they're thinking about doing it, we need to get that documentation done by the end of January so they don't miss the cycle. This graph will tell you or show you the dollars that we're getting reimbursed year over year. And the last column, of course, is the one that we're waiting on for this current fiscal year. You can see that the membership has grown and that the dollar of reimbursement has grown every year. So the big influx between FY 23 and 24 was when we added the SOC because the SOC is an eligible expense. So we've got a lot of dollars coming in from that, thanks to the Board of Regents. They're funding it to its completion as well as getting the reimbursement from the program.
Very big win.
Absolutely. All right, working group participation. So we always like to share this slide out so people can keep up with where their institutions are. I would like to point out that it's a kind of a manual process to track this, but for the first time ever, I had to add somebody from RPCC, River Parish Community College, attended for the first time on the last, I believe it was a security working group call that they came to. So pretty excited. I'm always excited when we see a new member come for the first time. So I want to point that out to the council. What I don't think there's a slide on is the summit. I think that was my last slide, right? So the summit is essentially an in-person working group meeting, right? That lasts for 3 days, 2 to 3 days. And Lance and Devin and I took a trip to Southeastern on last Monday, and we did essentially a site survey. So we're hoping to have the event at Southeastern this year. There's a little bit of a conflict in the dates and availability of the space. So we're working on the dates right now and see when essentially their student union is going to be available. And as soon as we know, we'll get the save the date flyer out like we typically do and broadcast that out to all the channels that need it. Yep. All right. So you know what I do.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Gary on NGI? Rural healthcare? Okay. The last item I had on my agenda for the executive director report was that LONI operation report. I did submit that to everybody on the council on the 14th. And so just want to offer the opportunity for any questions or discussions on that. And if not, we'll just right along. Yes, sir.
I have an update on the details of the resource allocation on QB4.
We're gonna take that up in the other business.
The advisors.
Oh, the advisors. for the board. Okay, yeah, we'll get to that. Sure. Okay. So just some closing remarks on my particular report. I wanna, I guess, follow Gene's comments earlier in the meeting. So I do want to thank the region staff, ITS leadership, and also members of the search committee. Your contributions were invaluable to the selection process for the executive director. And I do consider both an honor and a privilege to be able to serve in this capacity. This is an extraordinary community. The working groups and the community calls that we have are phenomenal. I'm very excited to see how they have grown over the years and how the contributions have continued to grow over the years. But as we kind of move forward and we chart new milestones together, please know that I am available to you. I will always be, because I know we can achieve a lot of good things together. So I'm at your service whenever you need it. And also Gary's comments about the work that we're doing as a team. The LONI staff has made tremendous efforts, working late nights, weekends, over the past many months, and we still have a few more months to go. But they managed to do all that, and as well as keeping the wheels on the road for day-to-day operations. So I do want to thank them for their efforts. And that concludes my remarks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Lance. Chief Advisor reports. Right.
There was a short discussion about the number of service units available on QB4 and the total that had been allocated up to that point. And we had about 20% of the service units available. The service unit is execution time on one core for 1 hour. I think the total number of service units available on QB4 is 264 million. And at the last, after the third quarter allocations, we had allocated a total of 200 million. So in response to that, one of the things that was discussed was whether we could increase the size of the maximum allocation, maximum single allocation, as well as the total amount of allocation per research group. So we were able to increase, Ramu has discussed it with the allocation committee, and two things have changed. One is the maximum single allocation has been increased from 8 million service units to 12 million. And the total number of active allocations per person or per PI has gone up from 16 million to 24 million service units. Yeah. And again, maximum allocated doesn't mean that it's all going to be used up. So, and just as,
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was just gonna provide some context. When we had QB2, the maximums were 4 and 8, 4 per allocation, 8 active at any given time, 8 million. When QB3 came along, we increased it to 8 and 16. And now QB4 came along. We had discussed, Ram and I had discussed that when we feel that, the ceiling needs to be raised, we will do so. And we are getting more and more requests from users who run out of their time and then they ask for a 25% advance on their next allocation. So they submit a proposal. So for example, there will be proposals coming in and they will be activated on October 1. But we have already requests for 25% advance on the allocations that will start October 1st. And the reason is that it is very easy to burn through hours on QB4, especially if you use the GPU nodes, because they're charged at a higher rate. Time goes faster when you're using a GPU.
So when they run out, I'm not close to this topic, so I'm just asking a question.
Yeah.
So when they run out the allocation, the job stops?
Well, they won't be able to start any new ones.
New job.
Right, so
So
if
you
it's
don't-
running, I mean, we have a few, I'm myself guilty of this. Sometimes your allocation runs into a negative number because you had a job running.
And then you can't issue another job until.
can't start
you
it.
have-
And you get startup allocations to add on to what you run out
We're
of.
really trying to discourage that. People they always request these startup allocations to tide them over. We would much rather they put in a big request.
So perhaps we may want to explore a continuing allocation that ties you until the next cycle. And that could be a function of how maybe
What
it
do you
needs
think?
an interim report.
Well, it's always balanced, and it's a bit delicate, right? So like Ramu said, you don't want to give them keep handing out. We do have PIs who kind of pay very little attention to how much they've been using. They could come back twice in a month to say, I've used up, give me a couple of million more, and then 2 weeks later say, I used it up again. But on the other side, we don't want to really, stop their race from doing research, right? So,
And part of it is again, research deadlines. So,
Right.
So just before major conferences, you can see that.
And sometimes you submitted a paper and the review comes back and says they want this explored. And you want to respond in 2 weeks' time, so you have to.
Just fire them up. That's right.
And again, what I keep getting asked by some faculty every now and then is, why do you have only 4 deadlines?
Well, quarterly.
Then you have to spike at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I told them, look, the review process is time consuming. Do you want to be on the review committee? So anyway, that's one. So perhaps a continuing allocation would relieve some of the concerns, something to explore.
It may be as going forward, we can have some metrics going forward so we can see before it happens. Like how many people actually running
Run out of
allocation.
Yeah, how big of a problem is it?
Yeah, do we?
It's becoming a larger problem than it
Yeah.
used to be. That's why we're proposing an increase.
So, there, some other centers, you will see they provide, a kind of like a clock, like the burn rate. Then you will see, okay, so you have 4 million, let's say, for entire 12 months, and your burn rate now is twice that, right? And then you would know, okay, so I probably need to, instead of waiting until the end of the 12 month, I probably need to start preparing a proposal, for,
I'm also
Record
saying
is
if
that-
there are 1,000 users on the system, what percent of users are peaking at that level? Is that 3%? Is that 10%? Just
So-
asking a question. Yeah.
Yes, I think, yeah, both, well, I mean, we can provide them with some metrics so that we can, when we do our training, we can say, okay, so run this and then you will see the.
But I'm saying for us to see so we can plan ahead,
Mhm.
that's all. Yeah, plenty of time.
And do we have, and perhaps we need statistics on how many of the 6 GPU nodes are stingy, right? Which ones are used and how frequently,
Yeah,
and that might be helpful in looking at the next configuration.
No, this is a good problem to have. We
Yeah.
actually have users who are using the machines. That's what we want.
Yeah, but to the point about the metrics, that's certainly, that will have a very telling case for us to better go to Regents and say, okay, well, this is where we need to make our strategic investments towards whatever the next QB is. Okay, thank you both.
Gene.
The report today. Eric covered everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it running on time?
And there's no economic development advisor at the moment.
Right.
Very good.
All right, other business.
The other business that I mentioned this to the chair, when the meeting started, one of the members in the resource allocation committee, so the current membership of the committee are the Ricardo Cortez from Tulane, Henry Chu from UL Lafayette, Michael Berlinski from LSU, Chris Suma from UNO, and then myself as the Edgar Blevins was a member, but he has retired. And the resource allocation committee was formed by those first, when LONI was started, there were like 6 universities that had HPC platforms on campus. They were the ones who made up the committee. So there is, for historical reasons, it makes sense to have a member from Southern replacing the retired member from Southern. And I talked to Dr. Shizong Yang. He was a LONI Science Institute hire way back after the post-Katrina. And he is a heavy user of LONI resources. He has already agreed to serve, and as I propose that we replace Dr. Blevins with Dr. Yang. So if you all agree, then I will let him know that it's been approved by the management.
I will be accepted.
I can't say, somebody else will.
All in favor?
I'll second.
Okay, great, okay.
All right. Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, who updates the webpage with the information like the application policy? We need to, you update. So we need to update the numbers, maximum, and also the membership.
Yeah, the maximum numbers have been, updated.
All right, schedule for the next meeting is November 18th, and then as you can see, the 26th. Meeting schedule quarterly. All right, 2:36, motion to adjourn the meeting. Second.
Second.
Approved. Vote to approve. Vote to
Objections
approve.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you
See
all.
you in November.
Guys. Okay.
One motion.